next we will hear from new member Sam Sweet, who's here to give us his classification talk. Sam is CEO or Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Heritage Foundation. He came to Harrisburg in 2023, and having been a member of the Wilmington Rotary Club, knew that this was the place to be. So please welcome Sam.
Thanks. I'm just going to stand up here and listen to Ski cheer me on. It's a lot of fun. Yes, moving from Wilmington to Harrisburg, you may know that Wilmington is the single A farm club for the Nats. So now I'm up to the double A farm club for the Nats. It's always a move up, and I'm happy to be here. All right. So anyway, I moved to Harrisburg actually over the Labor Day weekend to start as the executive director of the Pennsylvania Heritage Foundation. And how I got here, I guess, is the topic for the talk. I grew up in suburban Maryland. My father was in the Air Force and expected to be moving from spot to spot, but he never moved again. They kept promoting him, so he knew that he hadn't been forgotten. But I grew up in suburban Maryland, which is, Gertrude Stein would say, there's no there. And I decided to go to college in New York City. And there was certainly a there. I love New York City. I love the arts. I was very excited by it. And I wanted to stay in New York City and begin a career in the arts, which I did. And I came to manage a few New York City arts organizations. And then I moved to DC, where I became a leader of some more arts organizations: Shakespeare Theater, Signature Theater, Corcoran Gallery of Art, Atlas Performing Arts Center. And I found myself becoming skilled in leading organizations through transformative change, growth, and greater impact by building capacity and, of course, fundraising. I have a passion for the arts, but also I care deeply about community, the communities that they serve. The best example of that was after my time in DC, when I moved to Wilmington, Delaware, to become the executive director and CEO of the Delaware Art Museum. I started there in 2016, and I discovered that the museum had actually been neglecting the broad communities of color for years. To make the museum a 21st century outward-facing museum, my vision was for everyone in the community to feel that it was their museum. "This is your museum" became our tagline and our vision. To do that, we had this great sculpture garden, which we reimagined as a gathering place where everybody could come with music, dance, and yoga, as well as great sculpture. We came up with public programs, exhibits, and performances which were designed to engage the full community and attract new audiences and foster trust and loyalty, because we were showing our authentic commitment to diversity. The museum came to be recognized as a lively, inclusive, and welcoming place, but I do have to say that when I talked about people in the community saying, "This is my museum," the board of directors felt like, well, where does that leave us? So there was always that tension and dynamic, which came to wear on me after a while. COVID and Black Lives Matter kind of brought the realization to most of us in the arts community, as well as other nonprofits, that if an organization was going to survive that period and maybe thrive afterwards, it needed to show that it was an essential part of the community, that the community would only support these organizations if, in fact, they came to recognize that the values and works and people had an authentic connection to the communities that they were in. And now I come here to Harrisburg, to the Pennsylvania Heritage Foundation, which is not the arts, I realize that, but it is the humanities, and I'm a liberal arts, humanities-oriented person. As the Mellon Foundation says in supporting the humanities, including history, the humanities are vital tools for living. They're necessary to understand the world around us, connect us to one another. We need to understand the past if we're going to envision the future. Pennsylvania Heritage Foundation began 40 years ago as a friends group to the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, which is the state agency which actually is charged with being responsible for Pennsylvania's history and culture. Pennsylvania Heritage Foundation is an independent 501c3 to support and complement the work of PHMC. It's based in Harrisburg, but it is statewide in its scope. Sean? In Harrisburg, there is the Pennsylvania State Museum of Pennsylvania. There's also the State Archives, and not a museum or building, but an office is an important one, is the State Historic Preservation. See, he had teed up this day in history just for this presentation. We worked on that. What? So we're based in Harrisburg, but these sites are all across Pennsylvania. It's called the Trail of History, and actually it's broken down into different specific trails that you can go on if you wanted to make a tour of that. Can you just go ahead to the next one, please? The Military History Trail with the Maritime Museum, Fort Pitt out in Pittsburgh, Bushy Run Battlefield in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania Military Museum, Brandywine Battlefield Park, and Washington Crossing Historic Park. There's the Historic Homes Trail, which includes all the homes there, as you see. Next. The Industrial Heritage Trail, which is about lumber, coal, oil, steel, not surprisingly. And then the Rural Farm and Village Trail, which is down at the bottom. Again, these are located all over the Commonwealth. So we're based here, but we have responsibilities to support all of these sites as well. Next. Thank you. The History Hub in Harrisburg, which is the State Museum of Pennsylvania on the left and the State Archives on the right. And then there is the State Historic Preservation Office, and that's an important one. A lot of people don't know exactly what they do. We don't support them so much financially as we do in trying to promote the visibility of them. They, like us, are talking about wanting to support history, meaning big and small. Everybody knows the big moments in history, the big museums, the big sites, the famous ones. But there's a lot of history that is made by everyday people, people like us, people like our families, people like your grandparents, and other people in the community. And what SHPO does, State Historic Preservation Office, is survey across the state so that individuals in communities can designate or nominate specific places there that they feel are worthy of recognition and being remembered. And that's why across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania now, there are 2,600 markers, the blue and gold markers, 2,600 of them. And there are 3,500 designated historic buildings, sites, and districts that are on the National Register of Historic Places. And these were all nominated by people in those communities because they want these sites and histories, stories, and people to be recognized. But it's something that each of you can participate in. And they are still working on their survey, getting information on what people in different communities feel is worth being recognized. They have over 20,000 nominations so far, and they're going to work those down to a more manageable number, say about 1,000, 1,400. But one example, which was just honored with a marker 2 years ago, I think, students in Philadelphia learned that about a citywide walkout by thousands of Black students in 1967 that was protesting the lack of culturally inclusive education. That threat led eventually through lots of advocacy and continued discussions, led eventually to mandating African-American studies in the curriculum, making Philadelphia the first United States school district to do so. The students nominated the site of the walkout, and today there is a marker that stands there. Preserving, sharing, and celebrating the Commonwealth's history is our why at the Pennsylvania Heritage Foundation, and we're proud to work with the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission to ensure that history matters to all. Now, since I've come to Harrisburg, everybody has been very gracious and welcoming. So I want to thank you as a Rotary group for being so welcoming to me. I really am happy to be part of this and want to support all of the work of the Rotary does. Thank you.